Hi, everyone. This is Tyler with Garrison Group. One thing at Garrison Group that's a core tenet of what we do is service. And one way we thought about we could start serving our clients in our community is just by providing information. So we're going to start about once every month, bringing in somebody to have a brief discussion, people from different sectors of the community that have something to do with real estate in some facet, just to try to educate us and to educate you to make sure that we're getting information out there to the community that could be helpful when it comes to your real estate needs. So today I have brought on Ryan McCrady. Ryan McCrady is with the Springfield Sangamon Growth Alliance. So Ryan, thanks for joining us. Thanks for taking some time to discuss this stuff with us today. Could you just start by giving us a brief overview of exactly what the Springfield Sangamon Growth Alliance is?
Sure, and thanks for having me on, Tyler. The Springfield Sangamon Growth Alliance is a public-private partnership. It's been around for about 2.5 years. And we were focused on growing the economy of all of Springfield and Sangamon County. So we're commonly referred to as an economic development corporation. And we just have a little snazzier name than saying that we are the EDC. The reason our name's important is we want folks to recognize our name according to our geography, so they have a good idea. When you start talking about things like Land of Lincoln, such and such, that's a pretty big area. So it was important too that we had a name that represented our location, which, according to the siren, you can tell that we're right on right on Fifth Street in downtown Springfield. So we do economic development, and there's really 3 legs to that stool: business retention, keeping our businesses here and making sure that they're successful; business expansion, so hopefully taking those businesses, helping them increase their investment and secure their commitment to the community for expanding. And then we also do business attraction, where we try to bring new businesses into town. And there's a lot of tools in our toolbox that we use to do those things. That's basically a summary of what we look to do.
Awesome. Now, Ryan, you were a Springfield guy that went over to Decatur for a little while, did similar work over in Decatur, now has come back. Not long after you came back, we entered into a interesting economic climate in the wake of a global pandemic.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people have heard some of the negative things to come out of the economic climate but there was some good things that happened here in 2020 as well. What were some of the silver linings some of the good things we were still able to accomplish despite what we were facing?
So, I mean, internally here at the Springfield Sangamon Growth Alliance, the year 2020 was really doing a lot of foundational work to get ready to spread the news about the business opportunities that exist in our community. And it also gave us a time, since we couldn't really travel and go out and meet with prospects, that we really solidified the collaboration between a lot of groups in our community that are trying to make it a better business environment. So, inside our own community, we were meeting on more than a weekly basis with other groups to figure out what we could do to really support our businesses. Groups like Downtown Springfield Inc. and the Chamber of Commerce, the Small Business Development Center, University of Illinois at Springfield, the Innovate Springfield, the Office of Tourism. There were a bunch of us, the Black Chamber of Commerce, and a bunch of us on these weekly calls sharing as much information. So one good thing that probably came of this is that we got much better at really providing that critical support to businesses that were here today. The second thing I think that came out of it is businesses had to really refine their point of delivery for the service or product that they provided. So the customer value proposition changed a lot. And if you think about you personally, that when you went to pick up a to-go order, or when you went to secure an item at a retail store, you never probably thought as much about the point of delivery, that point where the business interacts with the customer as much as you did when you went through this. So the other good thing that came out of it is I think that people in our community really understood the importance of spending locally, and really had a heart for the businesses in our own community. And we grew closer as a community in the collaboration between businesses. You see businesses collaborate now in different industries. So when you see a downtown brewery that's infusing teas from the tea shop downtown into their beer, and bakeries that are now selling at restaurants, and everybody kind of came together and said, how can we work together? And collaboration really is an important part of a strong economy, but also businesses inside of a community. So hopefully, as we look back on this and the wounds kind of hopefully start to heal at some point, a lot of people, a lot of businesses took a lot of damage through this pandemic. Hopefully we'll see some bright spots, and those relationships and collaborations will stick around even past the pandemic time.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see how the hardship created creativity and opportunity to be creative, because it kind of forced our hand to be a little creative. And even logistically, I mean, we saw things like the food supply chain get interrupted for a little while, and kind of stressed the importance of having a strong local economy in all facets, because you never know exactly what's going to happen when you're so outwardly focused economically. Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, I don't think any of us had this pandemic on our SWOT analysis.
Yeah.
Going forward, when you're laying out threats, it wasn't like, well, let's think about what if we had a global pandemic that completely shocked our economy. That nobody had that in one of the corners of the SWOT analysis.
Yeah. So one thing that I think we've seen too, as kind of trends, I think every community wants a Tesla to come in and build a massive, shiny, brand new facility. But that's just not the case hardly anywhere. I mean, what we see in a lot of communities, really all size communities, but especially community our size, is even a lot of growth coming from redevelopment more so than new development. So what kind of impact does redevelopment have on a city?
So I have a somewhat unique perspective on redevelopment because of my past career path. So like you said, Tyler, before I came back home to Springfield, I spent about 6 years running the Economic Development Corporation for Decatur and Macon County, Illinois. But prior to that, I spent 6 years as city manager in Decatur. And so redevelopment was something that really meant a lot to me as a city official. And the reason is I believe the taxpayers get the best return on investment in redevelopment. And here's why. If you think about the fact that redevelopment sometimes is challenging because it can be expensive. Many times it can be even more expensive than trying to do something out on a green site that's paved and ready to go and everything else. But from the taxpayer perspective, in a redevelopment, many times that developer or that business is taking advantage of an investment that's already been made in infrastructure. So most of the time in redevelopment, you're not building a new road, you're not building a new sidewalk, you're not laying new water mains or sewer lines. You're not increasing the burden on the infrastructure. You're really taking advantage of an investment that was made probably many, many years ago, which is great. Redevelopment also provides a good boost in the tax base. And rarely do you see one property redevelop and not see other properties around it also start to redevelop. So it really creates a bigger economic impact right in that community. It also improves the pride and place of the community, and I believe it has a lot of good effects. I mean, even something as simple as typically a redevelopment's already on a bus route. So whether the employees need public transportation or customers might use it, a lot of that infrastructure is already set up. So I believe and I really enjoy being part of redevelopment projects. Now, having said all of that, they're not easy, right? They many times need some unique incentives because of, especially when you're remodeling older buildings and you have newer building codes, and there's the cost factors shift quite a bit, and so we have to recognize that too and do whatever we can to make a smooth pathway to encourage redevelopment. Because at the end of the day, I think it's the best ROI for the community.
Because I don't think people realize the cost of some of that infrastructure stuff until they go to do a new development. And then when they're seeing $300 a linear foot for sewage lines, that adds up really quick. So when all that stuff is in place, it allows you that flexibility to take a building that has that infrastructure and the bones that are good and shape it into a way that you may want it for your current use at a price that typically is more affordable than building brand new.
You think about needing enough water pressure to fire a sprinkler system. I mean, there's just a lot of things you don't think about. And I've seen estimates before, and Tyler, you in your business, you'll know this better than I do. But typically, if you have a green space site, if that site has all the infrastructure run to it, so if it has the water, the electric, the natural gas, the sanitary sewer, and storm sewer, the value of that is somewhere between $8,000 to $10,000 an acre. On a green site. So that's significant. So if you think about taking advantage of all that already being on a site for a redevelopment, you really are foregoing a lot of costs. Now the cost shifts, right? We talked about that, depending on the age of the structure and everything else. But I think it's pretty rewarding, redevelopment is, and hopefully we'll continue to see more of it.
And luckily, we do have some incentives here locally. A lot of people may not know about it. Enterprise zones, economic development zones, TIF funding. These are all government programs that were, depending on the different types of programs, upfront funding or rebates on taxes going forward for the increase in tax base. So there are options available for people if they are looking to do some redevelopment as far as government funding goes, where the local community will help you out with those projects. So
That's right. And there's really no one size fits all. So just because incentives work on one project, we're going to have to work with those developers and customize an approach that works right for them. Historic tax credits. There's all kinds of things. We can even work with workforce partners, and sometimes there's incentive working with them for the people that actually work at the place of employment. That can be pretty significant. So we can layer incentives in different ways. So we may not have an incentive for a specific cost driver, but many times we can bring other things into the deal that sometimes offset those costs. And so we try to get folks to think about the all-in cost and the all-in benefit that we can put together.
yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the Springfield Sangamon economy. Springfield's unique in that we're a state capital, so obviously government is a huge economic driver here. We're also a home of multiple regional hospitals, so healthcare is an economic driver here. And I think most people recognize those too. But what are some areas, some other industries that are actually really strong here in Springfield that might surprise people that the average person may not know about?
Yeah, so I mean, specific other strong areas here are information technology. We have a significant presence of those types of workers in the community. University of Illinois at Springfield has a very well-renowned computer science program that provides a lot of workers for the businesses. You think about some local companies that we have. LRS is a perfect example. They work with Fortune 50 companies all around the world and do information technology support for them. And their headquarters are right here in Springfield, Illinois. And that's where the company was founded. The professional services firms we have are very reliant on information technology skilled workers. So, even if you think about, like, for example, a regional healthcare center, obviously the medical professionals are really important, but behind the scenes, there's a whole lot of information technology work that has to happen to help them do their job. So it's a really big skill. We have a lot of highly skilled people in the community here for that. Another one is agriculture, and agriculture is somewhat misunderstood. So, for example, first of all, agriculture is the #1 industry in Illinois. It's the biggest industry we have in the state. Second, only about 2% of the people that work in the agriculture farm. And when you think about that, when you think about a career in agriculture, it doesn't mean you're going to be driving a combine in October. It could mean that, but it's much more likely to mean you're a food scientist or you are an engineer working on finding a way to make implements more efficient and use less fuel, and and all kinds of opportunities there. You look at Brandt, that's headquartered here in Springfield, and the kind of technology that they deal with. For example, they recently made a big investment in a water hydration product business that they recently announced. That's agriculture, right? That's working with those. So agriculture is a really big one that we have here in this community. Also logistics and transportation too. During the pandemic, that became even more important than ever when we start going to the store and we can't find whatever that thing is that we hope to find, whether it's toilet paper or sanitizing wipes or whatever you're trying to get your hands on. The logistics industry is really important, and Springfield's important. So you can reach in a one-day legal truck drive almost a third of the country's population from Springfield. And you can't do that from Chicago. You can't do that from Nashville or Memphis. You can't do it from Kansas City either. So you can't imitate that geography very well. So as we think about supply chains and how critical they are, and that's one thing we learned in this pandemic is supply chain disruption is a real problem. and you look at finding ways to remove risk out of your supply chain, Central Illinois, Springfield become a really important part of that. We also have large professional services is the name of the industry. And I mean, it's a lot of finance professionals, legal professionals, paralegals, all the folks that support that type of work. That's also a very, very active industry right here in our community. Those jobs typically pay pretty good wages and have a pretty good economic impact.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up the logistics because I don't think a lot of people realize how highly trafficked both 55 and 72 are, and how us being that interchange, um, what a blessing that is, and how beneficial that is for our city.
Yeah.
In location, we're in the middle of this. We're in the middle of Illinois, so we're in the middle of the state, a state that's in the middle of the Midwest. Logistically, I mean, obviously, our location plays a lot into us being the capital, but it can play a lot into us in attracting and bringing in industries.
Yeah.
Just because it makes their logistics easier. Which brings us are there certain industries that we're trying to focus on bringing here that may not already be here, or industries that are here but don't have a strong foothold that we're trying to strengthen, or is there anything we're actively looking to grow in this area?
So we do have a list of targeted industries, and when you come up with those targeted industries, it isn't always industries you hope to bring into your community, because we would never turn an industry down, but we do know factually and database we're better suited for certain industries that exist. Of course, health and life sciences is an industry. And one of the ways you define those targeted industries is you take a look at your workforce, you take a look at the skills that exist in your community and the types of workforce training systems you have in place, and you figure out which industries use a lot of those individuals, and that helps you figure out where you can be most competitive in targeting industries. So health and life sciences, technology, which we talked about, agriculture, agribusiness, professional services, and also manufacturing and heavy industry. When you look at our region, although we may not have that right in Springfield, the Central Illinois region is very well situated to take advantage of and go after those types of industries too. So those are all targets of ours at the Alliance. And we do go out and target specific companies and site selectors and industrial and commercial brokers that typically represent clients in those industries, and we make them aware of the opportunity that they could have to be very successful here in our community.
Awesome. Well, Ryan, you're at the Alliance. You guys have a current marketing program going right now called Thrive in SPI. So could you tell us a little about that? What does it mean to thrive in SPI?
Sure. So Thrive in SPI is the first time this community has done a very collaborative and full-scale community marketing and branding initiative for Springfield and Sangamon County. Community marketing and branding is very important for a number of reasons. One, people outside your community get an impression of your community based on what they know about it. Now, through community marketing and branding, you hope to shape and inform them when they make that impression about your community. If you're not telling your own story, somebody's telling it for you, and they're probably not telling it as well and in the same way as you would have given the opportunity. Secondly, community marketing and branding gives us a chance to improve the self-talk of our community, how we talk about ourselves, and when you're growing up, you hear all this talk about self-esteem and how important it is, and when you're in your early teens, and that's a difficult time in your life, and you maybe don't have the best kind of attitude, but people that have shaped you over the years have talked to you about the importance about self-talk. It's important for a community too, because as people, what we think becomes what we say, and what we say becomes what we do. So it's really important that we are informing our own citizens about the opportunity they have right here to thrive in their own community. And we think about the word thrive, you think about growing, you think about being successful, you think about moving forward. How does something thrive? How does a plant thrive if you plant it? How do we thrive as people? And you look at it you want to be fulfilled, right? And we want folks to know that our community is a great place for business, but it also has a great quality of life. So, you look at our cost of living here in Springfield and Sangamon County, it's over 34% less than what it is in Nashville, Tennessee. And yes, I know it's a little bit warmer in Nashville, and I understand that. But it's 47% less than what it costs to live in Chicago. and almost 20% less than what it costs to live in St. Louis. And those are two communities you can reach very quickly from Springfield and Sangamon County. We have outstanding healthcare, and I think as people look to figure out where they want to live post-pandemic, healthcare is going to matter a lot to a lot of us for a lot of reasons. We have a very diverse economy with great career opportunities, great schools, just a very diverse selection of public and private education opportunities here. We have Lincoln Land Community College, University of Illinois at Springfield, a major medical school at the SIU School of Medicine, great churches, a number of different types of churches, great parks and recreation opportunities. There's just a lot to offer here for folks. And so, you look at a community many times because you are looking for a job. But when you think about where you're going to live, you're going to measure what's my life going to be like in a community. So through Thrive and SPI, we hope to educate people about what it feels like to live and thrive in Springfield and Sangamon County. And that becomes an important tool in economic development too. So one question is, okay, that's great. Why are you doing this? Why are they not doing this through the Tourism Bureau? And I understand that. And the reason economic developers get involved in community marketing and branding is when they survey company CEOs about where they want to locate their businesses and they ask them what mattered most. Every year, the survey results are pretty much the same. Number one, workforce. They have to have the workers and a workforce training system in place, or they're not coming to your community. Number two, transportation assets, road, rail, air, sometimes water. We're not going to be a seaport here, right? But we have the other things. The third most important thing is quality of life, because the businesses know they will not attract and retain top talent if they don't have a great community to recruit them to. So quality of life, community marketing and branding is important in business attraction. It's also important in business retention, because we can develop the community marketing information that our current businesses use to attract talent into their business too. And so we have to help them sell the community. We can't expect every business in town to be able to do that. That's where we come in. And many times businesses ask economic development folks like me with assistance in recruiting. And so we develop this story. At the end of the day, we have to sell ourselves. We have to sell our community. We have to play offense. We have to actively do that. And this is what's going to start. This is what is happening. What you're going to continue to see go forward out of the growth allowance. We're going to be proud about who we are, and we're going to get out and tell people about it, and we will be successful. That's always the question is, will this work? I can tell you this for sure. We don't know for sure what the outcome is going to be if we do this, but we probably are sure what the outcome will be if we don't do it. And, nothing stays the same in this world. Everything is either getting weaker or stronger, right? You're either getting stronger, or you're moving towards atrophy, right? And so if you're not pushing and moving the impression of your community naturally forward, it will naturally fall backwards. And so we have to do this. I believe it will help grow our community, and it will help grow the economy. But it's something that you don't do for 6 months or 9 months. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And so it has to be at a minimum of 5-year effort to really be effective. So we are just getting started on it. We hope people will sign up. You can sign up to be a Thrive and SPI ally, to be an advocate for the community. And in return for that, of course, you'll get our undying admiration and appreciation. We also give you training a couple times a year. And we're going to have some really cool t-shirts to pass out too. So be more than happy to have people sign up to do that.
Yeah. And I think we have a unique opportunity. Forbes, one of the Forbes article mentioned Springfield as the #1 city to move to post-pandemic.
Right.
And you look at a lot of these large urban centers like a Chicago, where the cost of living is so high, but they were also hit the hardest by the socio-political unrest, by a pandemic. These are the places that I think you're gonna have a lot of people wanting to move to a community more the size of a Springfield. We can offer them that great community with a lower cost of living for them to just welcome them with open arms. You mentioned the Thrive and SPI Ally program, but is there anything else that we as a community can be doing? Thrive and SPI is more focused on how we can thrive. Is there anything we as community members can do to help Sangamon and Springfield thrive?
There is. The first thing you can do is just be an advocate. Just tell positive folks. Just be positive about your community. Tell positive stories. As you talk to people that are looking for a place to live, ask them to move here. That's many times in a sales pitch, people forget to ask someone to buy something, in the process. So, I do that. I do that for a living, but they can also do the same thing. At the same time, they can provide feedback to myself and others about, hey, so-and-so has this impression about our community, or this is something that I think we could fix that would help us attract more people. So the community and marketing and branding isn't being delusional about your community. It's talking about the good things at the same time, building awareness of things that we need to make better. So we need that feedback, both positive and negative. Individuals can share the Thrive and SPI information out on social media if they would like to. Also, they could invite us to come and meet with groups of individuals that they think could benefit from our message. And so all those things are helpful. Our job is going to be to give everybody in our community that elevator pitch that they need to help sell the community. And we're going to do that through the community marketing and branding campaign.
That's great. Yeah, each and every one of us can be a salesperson for the city.
That's right.
That's your job tonight. Well, Ryan, thanks for joining me today. Appreciate you taking time just to answer a few questions, teach a little bit about the local economy here in Springfield and Sangamon County. ThriveandSPI.org if anybody wants to learn more about what the Growth Alliance is doing or would like to get involved as an ally of some sort. You can check them out online. I'm sure they'd be happy to answer any questions you might have after this video, after learning some of this stuff. This will be posted here on this will be on our social media. It'll be on our website. We're going to be posting these regularly. So if you want to come check this out later, you missed a part, you hopped, and you want to rewatch or something, you feel free to come and watch it. It's garrisongroupinc.com. And as always, if you have any questions about real estate, you can reach out to us as well. Ryan, thanks again for joining me. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Tyler. I just want to say thank you to Garrison Group because when I talk about legacy employers and people that have invested in this community many times over, you and your colleagues and leaders there have your fingerprints on many, many great things in Springfield and Sangamon County. So please let them know we appreciate that commitment, that investment, and all the support that they give to our community.
And we appreciate that.
All right.
Ryan, you have a good day. We will
Thank you, Tyler.
talk to you again soon.